All right. We are good to go. All right, everybody. Here we are, another omnibus. Except this time around, we are going to be doing The Simpsons instead of King of the Hill.
Damn it, Bart.
That's not how it goes.
Yeah, but Hank is mad that we're talking about The Simpsons now.
We drove 2,000 miles for this. All right.
You
So,
jackass.
we're gonna be doing the first season of The Simpsons, which is pretty iconic, even though the animation, at least for 1989 to 1990 standards, was tolerable. Although everybody that worked on the cartoon said, like, "Wow, the animation sucked in the first season." But then again, they had to go through the Tracy Ullman show, and that budget of theirs was not the best. But I remember we once talked about it, and like Marge's mouth when she was about to kiss Bart was just like extended like a slinky.
Well, now there's a Simpson Bible on for the animators, like the do and don'ts.
Yes, of
Now,
course they had to build that up. They had to build that over years and years and years of experience doing the show.
hmm
So the first episode, or I should say the first season, had only 13 episodes because that's my New York accent. What are you talking about? Um, so this one's got 13 episodes because every first season, usually back in those days, and yeah, I don't think they even do like a 13 episode like thing anymore. But back then, like if you were gonna order a new show, you had to have at least 13 episodes on the bracket, or not on the bracket, but you needed to have at least something. So what ended up happening is they got 13 of them, and we'll talk about all 13 of them as
well,
somebody's
this
typing
was
very loudly.
this was the
Oh,
first
sorry, that was me.
animation that was targeted towards adults for prime time.
Well, I mean, it was a part of the Tracy Ullman show, if anybody did not know that. They started out as cartoon shorts, and they were spread out across the entire episode. Like, so the cartoon would not, like, begin and end right away, but there was, like, little points in place where the cartoon would pick up, and it was, like, one extended story.
All right, I just got to our chat. Hi, Mr. L.
So the first episode that was considered the very first one, and this has some lost media to it also. It's called Some Enchanted Evening. And this one is basically like the entire premise. It's just your standard run of the mill family of the American family, I should say, in the 80s. And they were making fun of that whole like genre of the typical family that you would see in every sitcom at the time. And so the episode starts with like actually the lost media, if we really want to get into this. Like Marge is like very excited that she's making breakfast for the entire family, and she's got Maggie with her, and it's like, "Oh, this is only our time to be together, Maggie, because when the day starts or when the breakfast starts, everybody's gonna be like so appreciative of the breakfast that I made for them." And then everybody just comes in and pigs out. And even Bart's like, "Where's the frosted crusty flakes?" Just ignoring the fact that there's orange juice, eggs, and toast. It's like, "No, give me the fucking crusty flakes. That sugar gives me strength."
Give me the fucking pancakes, Mom.
Yeah, there's even one point where Bart and Lisa fight over the last donut, and then Homer just snatches it in the air and just eats it.
Of course.
And then, of course, the kids don't even take the lunches that Marge made. They just steal money out of her wallet. And just be like, "It's okay, Mom. We got money." And Marge expects a kiss from Homer. But there's two ways that this happens. In the lost media version, Marge tries to kiss Homer, but she ends up kissing the door, and like the lipstick gets on the door as like he's driving away. But in the regular version, Marge goes to kiss Homer, but then Homer just like steals her coffee, drinks it, and then just runs away just to go to work.
Was there a invisible character that was supposed to be there but kept getting cut out?
An invisible character.
Yeah, I forgot what his name was, but he looked all weird and shit.
Smirgle?
Yeah, probably him.
I don't even know. No, I don't think there was any invisible character.
Oh, it was a gag thing for the DVD where you can watch the episode with him in it.
I had the
Crackle?
DVD. I had the DVD. That never happened.
Mm.
I had all the first 9 seasons on DVD. No, that never happened.
Probably internet making shit up again.
Just like that one, fuck, what was it called? That one Martin Scorsese movie that didn't happen, but...
Like, what are we talking about here?
I don't know.
You don't know about the...
I mean, I know about the. I know the.
Bro?
I know about the Scorsese thing. Trust me, I know my Scorsese fandom here. I just not talking about that whole invisible thing. It's like you're gonna have to find it for me. Then maybe I could try to see if like there's
Raggle,
anything.
I put it over the movie poster.
Let me see.
I
No,
think
that was
that's what-
nope. That was not a thing. I could tell that for a fact because I even looked at all the bonuses that they put on the first season. That was not in there. So going back to the episode, Marge hears the radio, and it's like, well, if you're having trouble with your spouse and their relationship, call Dr. Monroe over the radio. The answer, the number
God.
the number is
Not
555.
Marvin Monroe.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. The electric shock therapy one.
No, that's another
Yes.
episode. That's the other episode.
Okay.
It's the same doctor though.
It's the same doctor, different episode. So, like the number is 555 pain. That's the. Marge is just sitting there twiddling her fingers, and the radio says, "Don't be afraid. Call now."
I think I wouldn't trust him.
Well, she calls, and the screener is like, "Okay, first name, age, problem." Which, by the way, every call screener is like that. They just hate their jobs. They hate being called.
Relatable.
They hate call screeners. It's like, okay, what the fuck do you want to ask the host today? Which, by the way, if we ever do live call-in shows, like, I expect somebody to just be like, what the fuck do you want to ask these people about? They have cats. Like, what do you need to ask these cat lovers here? And one dog
L.
lover.
Mr. Ellis asking why you only covering 9 seasons.
Well, because those are the classic era. And that's the era that I know best. And by the way, it is considered the classic era. They're actually Mastermind, the UK game show. There was a contestant whose specialty knowledge was the first 9 seasons of The Simpsons, and even the host's like, "Yep, that is the classic era of The Simpsons right there, seasons 1 through 9." Anyway, back to the episode. So she's like, "My name is Marge, 34, and my problem is my husband. He doesn't listen to me. He doesn't appreciate me. I don't know much how more of this I get to..." Okay, ladies, save your whining for when you're on the air, okay?
That makes me feel bad because I'm 34 and I don't have a family.
And I'm 34 as well.
Meanwhile, Homer's actually listening to the same radio station. He's like, "Oh, hey, turn that up. I love these whining and complainers." Not realizing that Marge is on the other line. She's on with Dr. Monroe, and he's like, "Okay, tell me about your husband, Marge." He's like, "Well, when we were dating, he was sweeter and more romantic and 40 pounds thinner, and he had hair, and he ate with utensils."
He was trying to get you, Marge, and then he got comfortable. Damn it. That's always how it goes.
Lulling it in like that one fish that has like the light at the end of it.
Dr. Monroe ends up convincing Marge that Homer sees him as nothing. He's like, the pig has made you into his mother. You are not the hot, loving object you deserve to be. She's like, are you sure? It's like, I am sure, just as I'm sure that my voice is annoying. So here's what I want you to do, Marge. I want you to wait outside your front door tonight. As your husband comes in, you're going to go straight up to him and say, if you don't stop loving me, I'm leaving.
Ooh.
Oh.
How about just couple counseling?
She's like, leave Homer? No, don't use his real name. Leave Pedro? And all of Homer's coworkers are laughing, and Homer's like, oh my god, that's Marge on the other line.
Yeah, Pedro.
Jesus.
Oh, and then finally, like, is like, you're gonna do the thing, right, Marge? Yeah, you're gonna talk to your husband when he comes home for work. Yeah, say it like you mean it. Yeah! So in order to smooth things over, Homer goes out to buy some roses for Marge. Meanwhile, Marge, and this is an intricate point, like every time the clock ticks in the background, her eyes are blinking. It's one thing that people don't pick up right away, but it's every time the clock is ticking, like that's when she blinks. And she's just staring at the door waiting for him to come home. At one point, the kids are asking for dinner, and she just growls at them like a lion.
Mommy's on her period. Run!
And then all these weird psychedelic monsters start popping up in her head as Monroe's voice reminding her to saying all these things pops up in her head. And then at one point, her eyes start glowing red as she gets, like, intensely angry.
Marge is a fucking demon. Guys, let's go on.
Damn.
Homer walks through the front door. She's about to ready to say it, and all of a sudden, Homer just pops roses in front of her and says, I love you, Marjorie. And then all the anger dissipates. She's like, oh, Homer, I love you, too.
Children, this is what we call an abusive relationship.
Meanwhile, Bart and Lisa are doing the infamous... Oh, I forgot to mention... Oh, there's 2 prank calls in this one. So, like, before, like, Homer starts buying the roses, he stops at Moe's bar. And he's like, oh, my wife thinks I'm a pig. And it's like, you're right, Homer, you are a pig. You can ask anyone in this bar. What? Hey, Barney, am I a pig? You're even more of a pig than I am.
I agree with Mr. L. Marge is the Red Hulk.
But the infamous, like, the 2 prank calls, like, one of them's like, hello, is Al there? Al, alcoholic. Okay, hold on, let me check. Listen, you jackass, if I ever find out who you are, I'll kill you. I hope you find that punk someday, Mo. And then the next one is Oliver there? Oliver who? Oliver, clothes off. Okay, let me check. Oliver, clothes off. Call for Oliver, clothes off.
Wait a minute. I'm going to get you.
When I find out who you are, I swear I'm going to slice your belly open. But
Poor Mo gets cut every time, man.
Mo basically tells Homer, it's like, listen, why don't you take her out on a romantic evening on the town? And you know what? Afterwards, you go to the fanciest hotel in town, and then you don't leave until the next morning, if you know what I mean. Huh?
Oh, this is starting to trigger me. It's the fucking babysitter one, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because after Homer tells Marge all the plans, it's like, well, we gotta get a babysitter. But the thing is, the babysitter place has posters up that says, do not babysit these kids. And it's Bart, Lisa, and Maggie. And so they have to call in. It's like, hello, this is Mr. Sampson. Did your wife just call a second ago? No, I said Samson, not Simpson. Thank God, those Simpsons. What a bunch bunch of savages, especially that big ape father.
The
The
Just thinking about the
babysitter.
treehouse or of episodes. Now, with
By the
that
way,
line.
the babysitter pops up and she's a literal horror show. And so there's like, oh, okay, while you watch the kids, you can turn on the Happy Little Elves video cassette tape.
Oh my god.
And it's like, oh no, the elves, the elves.
We in hell with the elves.
Which is basically what I found out, it's basically it's supposed to be a knockoff on the Smurfs.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, children, let's go watch the Happy Little Elves. Look, lady, we've seen the crappy little elves 14 billion times.
You're gonna watch the happy little elves and you're gonna like it, you little shit.
No, you know what she says? He's like, I said you're gonna watch this tape, and you're gonna do what I say, or I'm gonna do something to you. And I don't know what that is, because everybody has always done what I say.
The babysitter looked like fucking Cletus's sister.
Bart immediately just puts the tape in and be like, yes, ma'am. But Marge and Homer go to like this French restaurant, and it's like, ooh, look at all the lobsters. I'll take this one. Sir, that lobster is dead. We prefer not to have you eat a dead lobster. Okay, then how about this alive one? Oh, that's perfect. Ready?
I mean, does it have the rubber bands on its claws?
What?
I was just asking if this like lobster already has like rubber bands on its claws.
I don't know.
Pretty sure it should have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they animated that, though.
I mean, like, it could have been like, Summer's already, I don't know why. Suddenly in my mind, I was thinking about that scene from an episode of Family Guy where they go to this, like, restaurant that the Griffins do, and Stewie goes into the tank and fights this lobster.
Oh yeah, where they were on reality TV.
Yep.
We don't talk about Family Guy in the same breath as The Simpsons here.
I'm just making a statement.
There was a
Unless we're
gag
talking
with,
about that stupid
Homer and a
crossover.
lobster, but different episode, I think.
Yes,
Oh.
very different
Okay.
episode.
I know. I'm sorry I broke it. I'm sorry I broke that taboo. Like, shit. Pardon me. I was just making a comparison.
Well, we have to talk about that freaking Simpsons crossover with the Family Guy later on. You know
Yeah,
this, Joe.
yeah, well, no, because that wasn't part of the classic era. I don't have to.
Officially after the classic era.
No, you don't have to bring that up.
Okay.
At some point, Bart just turns off the videotapes, like, let's just watch some real TV. And then they watch the equivalent of America's Most Wanted, but instead it's called America's Most Armed and Dangerous.
Oh, I missed that fucking show.
America's Most Wanted?
Uh-huh. I loved watching it as a kid.
Because the cue ball killer is considered armed and dangerous. If you think you see him, call 1-800-USE-SQUEALED. They actually do an episode called The Babysitter Bandit. And it turns out it's actually the babysitter that they have. And it's even scary, too, because as soon as they find out that she's the babysitter bandit, like, the babysitter comes in with some rope because she's about to tie them up.
Children.
There's even one point where Bart tries to, like, knock her out with, like, one of Homer's bowling balls in the basement.
Wouldn't that kill someone?
Yes, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because Bart ends up falling off of one of the shelves in the basement, and it's like, well, that didn't work.
Let's remember, Mooney, this is cartoon logic.
I know. Sometimes it's kind of hard to try to differentiate, like, the logic between the cartoons and even with reality.
They all get
Sorry.
hurt, but
I know.
it doesn't kill them.
Sorry, I was just watching, like, like how doctors react to like cartoon injuries. Sorry.
I know who you're talking about.
She even
No, not it's not the same guy.
Hmm.
She even catches Lisa trying to call like the TV show. It's like, I got the babysitter bandit, and the babysitter just pulls the phone cord closer so she can capture Lisa and just ties them both up like on the couch and then just makes them watch the happy little elves as torture. Of course, it's only torturous to Bart. It's like, and she's got like Bart's mouth taped up. Meanwhile, Homer and Marge are trying to get to the hotel after they started dancing at the like this little like one of those like dance clubs back from like the 50s. They miss the off ramp, and then they have to drive another 20 miles just to get to the place. Then Homer tries to carry Marge over the threshold and then just trips on like one of those footstools and then just like starts throwing Marge onto the bed and she's like, "Wee!" Meanwhile, of course, Maggie wakes up and then just like, and Maggie's like, "Ooh, happy little elves just ended. Oh well." Lisa convinces Maggie to untie them, which she does for impressive for a 1-year-old.
I believe fucking Maggie's like way much of a genius than Bart and Lisa combined together. It's always the quiet ones.
I think we'll get to know more about Maggie later on in the seasons, like
Yes.
how far her character has progressed.
Mm-hmm.
Homer and Marge are also getting ready for some fun time in the hotel room.
Chicka bow wow!
Marge is like, "Let me go step into something a little more comfortable," which apparently she's got like one of those blue see-through dresses.
Fuck.
And when Marge comes out of the bathroom wearing it, Homer's just like the duh, like the light bulb just went off in his head. Like, I don't know. All I know is like sex is happening. I've lost all my intellect at that point.
I'm an 8.
Meanwhile, Maggie acts as a decoy to try to get the babysitter to go into the room, and then Bart just hits her over the head with a mallet and knocks her out. And then they tie her up and make her watch the Happy Little Elves, which is torture to her. So, haha, the thing's turned right around on you. So they try to call since the babysitter pretty much disconnected all the phones, they have to leave the house so that they can try to find a payphone so they can call the TV show. It's like, "We caught her. We caught the babysitter bandit." They find out the reward is they get T-shirts. They don't even get a cash prize. It's just like, "Oh, you get free T-shirts from the show." It's like, yeah.
Too bad they didn't have a brick phone.
I don't think the family could even afford a brick phone back then.
Yeah.
They even try to call the house like Marge does. It's like, let's just check up on the kids. Let's spoil the mood. And Homer's just like, "Yeah, whatever. I just had fun tonight."
I'm gonna watch TV.
All of a sudden, Marge panics. It's like, there's no answer at home. And so she automatically is like, "We gotta go home. We gotta do something." And so they get home before the kids get back, and then they untie the babysitter, and the babysitter pretty much gets away. But before she does, so it's like, "Mr. Sampson, can I give you some word of advice? Don't you turn your eye on that boy for a second."
You don't think he already knows that?
It's like, "Ain't that the truth? One time he..." And then she just drives away before he can finish. Meanwhile, all the news trucks are piling in, and then everyone just looks at Homer like, why the fuck did you let her go?" Like, did you not just realize that was the babysitter bandit? And then he's like, well, it wasn't that I let her go. It was like, are you sure this thing is on? It wasn't really that easy. Are you sure this is on? Because it was really just quite a struggle. on the lower third on the news, they just call him local boob. It's like, you asshole, you let her go. And then he starts making a threat to her. It's like, have you seen that television show where... You ever seen that karate television show? It was just like that. Well, now I know her moves. So if you're listening to me later, you better think twice before you pull something like this on Homer Simpson again. Meanwhile, he's watching that program over again. He's like, Lord help me, I am an asshole. Marge is like, well, Homer, if you can raise 3 children that can knock out and hog tie a stranger, you must be doing something right.
Yeah.
They turn off the lights. He's like, honey, can we make up again? That's how the episode ends. It's like, oh my goodness, Homer.
You know, for Bart, like, not wanting his, like, sisters and shit at first, they do work well as a fucking team.
No, they're a menace to all babysitters.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the babysitter bandit never came back. Even she was like, oh god.
Cletus is hiding her in the shack.
Somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, the next episode is called Bart the Genius.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
The episode starts off with them playing a game of Scrabble. If anybody remembers that game. It was before it's before Words with Friends came out.
I played it a couple.
So Bart's getting bored of the game, so he just makes up this random word called Quidgibo. Which, by the way, ultimately ended up becoming got inspiration for a macro virus called Miranda, I believe.
Oh. The Simpsons predict the future again. Dun dun dun.
Well, they never predicted the future.
I'm kidding.
It's like, wait, Homer's like, you're not going anywhere until you tell me what a Quidgibo is. Okay, it's a big, dumb, balding North American ape with no chin. And Homer's like, I'll show you a big, dumb, balding ape.
The years before Google.
It's like, uh-oh, Quidgibo on the loose.
You little...
And that one act of child abuse ended up becoming a marketing sensation.
I know, right?
Well, that was actually from a Behind the Laughter episode that they decided to do just to make fun of that whole show. But the next day at school, Bart has to take one of those, like, aptitude tests where it tests your intelligence.
Oh god.
But before he takes it, he ends up spray painting Principal Skinner on one of the brick walls, and it's him saying, "I'm a wiener," but wiener is spelled incorrectly. Martin, the spoiled rich smart kid, has to be like, the preferred spelling is Wiener, although EI is an acceptable variant.
Mm-hmm.
Principal Skinner checks all the kids' hands, and Bart's just covered with paint. And it's like, well, we're gonna have a little talk, Bart, after school.
Dun dun dun.
And then, of course, Bart blames Martin. It's like, don't take it out on me. I was only trying to save the school building. Eat my shorts. Martin finishes aptitude test early, and then while Mrs. Krabappel is not looking, like, he switches the test results between him and Martin. And then just tries to get every single answer wrong for Martin before he turns his in. So while the Homer and Marge come in, because they're about to have a talk with the principal, all of a sudden, like, the child psychologist comes in and says that Bart's a genius after he took his aptitude test. And everyone's just like, Bart is a genius? What the fuck? What kind of test is this? So eventually the child psychologist is like, hey, Bart, wouldn't you rather go to a school that allows you, that doesn't, like, treat school like a prison, like you actually get to do some fun shit? He's like, damn straight, yes. Okay, well, we'll take you to this school then. And just show up around 9 o'clock. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So he gets ready for school the next day, and he has to wear a tie, or he has to wear, like, one of those button-up shirts and a tie.
A uniform?
Yeah.
Although he doesn't wear the tie at first. It doesn't wear the tie at first. Because he's like, ties, no. But then he shows up to the school. It's like, oh, no, everybody's got a tie. And then Homer's like, don't worry, son. You can have mine. Here, let me show you how to put on a tie. And then it's actually like one of those hook-on ties. So he doesn't even have a tie that you can tie together. Which is hilarious as hell.
Well, remember, Homer's stupid.
That's because he's got the crayon stuck up his nose.
Yep.
Yep, and it's in his brain.
So Bart kisses Bart goodbye and good luck, and Bart's like, you kissed me. He's like, what? There's nothing wrong with a father kissing his son, I think. So it turns out the teacher that's there is like a better version of Mrs. Krabappel, and he's like, here, Bart, you can make your own rules. If you feel sleepy, take a nap. If you get bored, feel free to look around and start reading.
Oh.
By the way, this episode is also infamous for what the teacher actually throws away a comic book into the trash, and then fans have pointed out that that's actually like throwing a comic book into the trash is a form of censorship. Because you're basically telling like a whole group of people like comic books are not necessarily a form of education.
Well, that's every nerd these days.
Because there was like a point where the teacher's like, a comic book? How did this get mixed up in here? We've actually had this as a prop for a school play we did about illiteracy. So Bart meets all the other students, and it turns out like all the other students are like very big into like very mouth things. Like one guy just talks in palindromes where the sentences are spelled the same backwards and forwards. And then there's one guy that just speaks in reverse.
Oh no.
And then there's another student that just has like two hamsters. One's been infected with a virus, and the other one's going to get dissected in a few weeks.
Poor babies.
And so finally they start to have class time, and it's like one of those free-for-all, like, oh, let's have a discussion and debate things. And then Bart's just like, I am so out of my element with this. I have no idea what anybody's talking about here.
I felt the same way when I went to private school.
The kids even make fun of Bart at lunch because they start trading him like all their lunch, and Bart just has no idea what they're talking about. So it's like, oh, I'll basically trade you your sandwich for my cherry. But the way they phrase it, it's like, oh hey, I'll trade you the weight of a bowling ball on Jupiter for my lunch, for the weight of a feather on the second moon of Neptune for your lunch. Like one of the kids trades Bart's milk for just like 4 droplets of milk. And everybody starts realizing that Bart's not really a genius. So Marge to pick up Bart's spirits, it's like, oh, let's get tickets I got tickets to the opera. He's like, Mom, I don't want to go to the opera. Who wants to go to the fucking opera?
Nobody.
So Bart, Lisa, and Homer start making fun of the opera the entire time.
and Lisa's supposed to be the genius.
But she's having fun with it too, because again, she's a kid. Marge is just sitting there going, "We're supposed to be encouraging. We're supposed to be nurturing your brain, and you're making fun of this. What the fuck?" But it's a way for Homer and Bart to start bonding more often. And they're just like, let's go get a burger after this. So it's like, you're okay, Dad, let's do that. Bart tries to go see his old friends at school, and they just make fun of him because, like, he's smart now, so he can't hang out with all the dumb kids anymore. Because it's like, oh yeah, here's Poindexter trying to come hang out with those dumb kids, right? Why don't you go build your own rocket ship, Brainiac?
It kind of reminds me of the Token episode from South Park.
Oh, and by the way, Marge is also like, oh, we gotta go to the film festival, guys. Like, what film festival? It's like, oh, sorry, son. Your mother got us tickets to go see some movie directed by some Swedish meatball. Now, I literally thought at the time that a literal Swedish meatball directed a movie.
Ain't it funny how our minds are when we were kids?
So they decide to skip it, and Homer and Bart are just playing catch out in the backyard. It's like father-son bonding time. Meanwhile, Bart's been trying to tell Homer like what really happened, and he's just like, "Well, we've been bonding so much, I don't want to say anything." The next day, Bart's in class, and he's doing like a science experiment, and he mixes two dangerous chemicals together, so like the whole classroom explodes with green slime. So the child psychologist is actually the principal of the school, and he's like, "Look, Bart, nobody's angry about the accident. We're just concerned. Like, what's going on?" And Bart just says, I want to go back to my old school." So he decides to convince him, like, well, the only way that's gonna happen is if, like, what if I go undercover? What if I pretend that I'm a dumb kid and I'm just studying all the students as like subjects and see what makes everybody tick? So the psychologist is like, oh, good idea. Write up your proposal and I'll go talk to Principal Skinner about this. So Bart's just by himself and he's writing the proposal in his head, but he can't do it. So finally he just says, he just writes down his confession about what he did. Like, he just confesses that he cheated on his test and that he switched the stuff with Martin and everything. And then the psychologist comes back and he just looks at it and goes, you know, you misspelled confession. By the way, Bart is covered head to toe in green. So he comes out looking like the Hulk in all this. So as Homer is washing all the green chemicals off of Bart finally confesses to Homer, and he's like, look, I just want to say the past few weeks have been great. You and me have actually done things together. You helped me out with things, and we're closer than we've ever been. I love you, Dad. And I think that if something like this can bring us that close, it can't possibly be bad. Why, you little... So Bart immediately runs into the house naked, trying to get up to his room while Homer chases him. Bart successfully gets into his room, locks the door, and then Homer's like, march your butt right out here. He's like, no way, man. He's like, but son, if you don't come out, I can't hug you and kiss you and make you feel all better. You think I'm dumb enough to fall for that? I'm insulted. And then Homer just bangs on the door the entire night. Like a ravaged monkey.
A Quidgy that thing.
A what? Oh yeah, it's a Quidgy, yes.
They go full circle.
Yeah. Like there's even one point like in the animation where he's just like grinding his teeth and his nails against the door. And it's funny listening to like the foreign versions, like especially if you listen to like the French version. But it's just like some French guy just basically just like going like right into the microphone. And that's how the episode ends. It's just like Homer grunting like a Quidgibo. All right, next episode is called Homer's Odyssey. So this one, like Bart is on is gonna take a field trip to the nuclear power plant. That's exactly where Homer works, by the way. And of course, like on the bus ride there, Bart has to sit with like a kid that Wendell, the kid that always throws up on the bus.
Yeah, poor Wendell.
There's even one point where Mrs. Krabappel says, "Bart, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna force you to sing a song in front of the whole class." It's like, can I pick the song? No. The song will be John Henry Was a Steel Driving Man. Oh, fuck. And then, of course, Sherry and Terry, the twins, are going to force him to sing, so they end up kissing him. And he's like, ew! And then finally he sings it before they get to the thing, and it's like, "Hey, Wendell, you made it, buddy!" And he starts throwing up as soon as he slaps him on the back.
Oh no!
Ooh.
By the way, this episode is also memorable for a couple of things. Is infamous for the Smithers being black in the in his debut episode. And the creators have said that it was a mistake on their part because they wanted him to be the white sycophant of Mr. Burns, but they ended up doing like terrible color, like something happened during the coloring in the animation, so that's why his skin completely changes in the next episode that he's in, because they didn't want him to be like the black guy that's always like the right hand man to the rich billionaire. So, because they thought that would look racist. And it is. So,
A slave.
Yeah, exactly. So, in the next episode, they just changed them completely yellow. And the way they get out of it is like, "Well, sir, I had a really bad tan." So, as they're getting a tour of the place, Homer's on, one of those little, robotic cars. Whoa, that was an echo right there. And he's not paying attention because Bart is, yelling, "Hey, Dad, I'm up here!" Homer crashes into one of those, the nuclear tanks. And, his boss fires him, and so Homer doesn't have a job. And by the way, he's the breadwinner, so he's providing all the money for the family. He's like, "I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I'm a worthless nobody. The nuclear power plant was the only good thing I was able to do."
This is a guy who had a billion fucking jobs on one fucking series.
Exactly. That was before all that happened. But he tries to find jobs and he ends up drowning his sorrows at Moe's bar. Meanwhile, here's another prank call. It's like, "Is IP there?" "Who? IP Freely? Okay, let me check." So Homer's at a point where he's just lifeless on the couch. All the kids are just looking at him. It's like, all he just does is sit there like an unemployed whale.
Oh my god.
Maggie actually pokes him in the eye, and Homer doesn't even flinch. Homer sees a commercial on TV for beer, and he's just like, "Okay, I really need a beer." And then he realizes there's no beer in the fridge, and he doesn't have any money, so he tries to steal money from his kids by breaking their piggy bank.
Homer J. Simpson.
And then realizes, like, even the kids don't have enough money for beer. So Homer writes a suicide note and then decides to take a big boulder and then head over towards the river because he's gonna like jump off the bridge with the chain and the around the boulder thing. And then his family finds him and they're like, no, don't do it. And then Homer notices like a car is about to hit his family, so he pushes them out of the way. He's like, wow, that was dangerous. Somebody should have put a stop sign here. And all of a sudden, like, the light comes, like, pouring in off the sky. And he's like, can you see the light, boy? Homer has an epiphany. It's like, I'm not stopping until this bridge has a fucking stop sign.
Woo!
Homer goes to town hall and actually is able to get the stop sign here. It's like, well, that's just step one. Here's what I'm going to be doing next. And so he starts putting, like, all these safety signs all across town, and Homer starts becoming the safety man.
Yay.
And then Homer's like, well, I'm not satisfied. There's one place that is very dangerous that I need to take care of. What are you talking about, Homer? I'm talking about that. Points at the power plant where he used to work. He's like, you're going to take on your old boss, Dad? Yup. Wow, Dad's a hero. It's like, what'd you say, Bart? Nothing. Oh, don't worry. I'll just pretend what I think you said. Homer has this big old rally in front of, like, all the workers and all the townspeople. Mr. Burns is looking up from his high tower and tells Black Smithers, like, I want you to get that man and bring him into my office, because I want to have a word with him. Mr. Burns offers Homer a job to be the safety inspector of the plant. And Homer's, like, trying to think in his head, like, I can't do this. If I'm the safety inspector, this place will explode. I'm not good at safety inspection. So he takes the job, but he's having, like, an eternal conflict because he doesn't want to betray his morals, but at the same time, he's like, I do need to provide for my family. And then finally, he musters up the courage to tell the townspeople, it's like, well, I'm giving up on the cause, and I'm going to take a job with the people. But don't worry, I'm going to become the nuclear power plant safety inspector with a big fat raise. And everybody cheers for him anyway. And that's how the episode ends.
Get off my desk.
Alright, next episode. Okay, this is the electroshock therapy one.
Oh, God, yes. I actually watched this one when it was back on VHS.
Oh my God, to think that The Simpsons were on VHS at one point.
Yeah.
Hell, my family used to record it on fucking blank VHSs so we could rewatch them and shit.
Yep, the same with me. So this one, it's called There's No Disgrace Like Home. It starts off with Bart and Lisa arguing over who loves Homer more. And it's like, you love him more. No, you love him more. No, I don't. Yes, you do. They make a gelatin dessert with marshmallows inside of it. Because apparently Mr. Burns is a huge fan of gelatin desserts.
He's got like a friggin' pile of it.
Yes, it's like, some damn fool went around telling everybody, I love that slimy goop. So they get to Mr. Burns' place. Whoa, echo again. And of course, everybody besides Homer just starts acting like JoJo, and just starts like throwing stand abilities everywhere, just causing a havoc.
Oh yeah, I think this is also one where Marge actually gets drunk in this.
Yes, she's drinking punch with the rest of the moms, or I should say, like the employees' wives. She's like, well, I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think there's a little alcohol in this punch.
She's Gilbert Gottfried now.
Oh god. I did not mean to go that route. I am so sorry.
Now you gotta do the Gilbert Gottfried voice with Marge from now on.
May he rest in peace, though.
Yeah.
Joey, why are you telling me to do a mic check? What the fuck?
You know who I am? I'm Gilbert Gottfried, bitch.
Marge at one point actually starts singing while she's drunk.
I can't believe I can't remember the lot of the lyrics.
But at one point, like as she's drinking, Homer catches her and she's like, "Hey, homie, did you try the punch?"
Did I try the punch?
Snap out of it, Marge. You have to make a toast. Oh, I'm not much of a drinker.
Not much of a drinker. Wait, a perfect time to start, you.
There's even one moment where, like, the father-son sack race is gonna come up, and Mr. Burns always wins. Bart...
Yes, and yeah, that one point where Bart tries to outsmart and run him, like, man, this is pathetic. I'm going for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Bart!
Homer just chases
Bart,
after him.
No! Yes.
And so the party ends, and as everybody's piling over, Homer sees like a family that's just like in perfect bliss. Like all the kids are behaving, all the kids love each other, and Homer's like thinking to himself, why can't my family be like that? Like he looks at them and like they're like angels with halos on them, and their cars flying off into like heaven. It's like the ending to Grease.
Yeah.
Yes.
Meanwhile, he's looking inside his own car with his family, and they're all devilish creatures like, "This is where you belong. Yeah, Homer. Room for one more. One of us. One of us. One of us.
One of us. One of us.
Well, let's go back to the Simpsons Bible for a minute. That devilish look that is no longer allowed into the current Simpson timeline anymore.
Oh, you broke
Because
up
they
for
find that design.
You broke up there, Circus, so he didn't hear you.
I said, let's go back to that Simpson Bible thing. That like devilish look the Simpsons have is no longer allowed in like designs with the Simpsons.
Yeah, because it was
it's
creepy.
all ugly.
It was creepy as hell.
Yeah, I was just saying as a fact.
Yeah. That's why they never did it again.
Mm-hmm. That's why they had to cut out the fucking like bus stop people, because it didn't make no sense anymore.
Oh yeah, in the original intro. Yeah, because those people had nothing to do with it.
Uh-huh. Their proportions were all off and all that shit.
The next day, the family's just having dinner in front of the TV, and Homer's like, "No, we're not doing that. We're going to sit at the table like a normal family." They do, and then they start eating like pigs. And he's like, "No, we're going to say grace first." Okay, rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub.
Yeah.
And then Homer just starts leading grace, and he's like, "Dear Lord, thank you for this wonderful bounty we're about to receive, even though we didn't deserve it. I mean, our kids are uncontrollable hellions, pardon my French. Did you see them at the picnic? Of course you do, Lord. You know everything. Oh, Lord, why did you spite me with this family?"
Amen.
Let's eat.
Talk about fucking like
But Homer,
roasting your family.
How are you supposed? But Homer, how long are you supposed to badmouth us to the man upstairs?
Homer starts taking all the rest of the family to see how other families act. He's like, "Look at that, kids. No fighting, no yelling, no belching. The dad has a shirt on. Look, napkins."
These people are obviously freaks.
Yeah, exactly. The one family that they see last, it's like, "Papa, I think I hear something outside." "I did too. Better get the gun."
He is just
didn't think of knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, I'm here to prove a point to my family. Can I watch you guys eat?" Okay, that's probably just as bad.
Yeah,
'cause-
sounds like a stalker.
Yeah.
I love how they go to the next house and come to find out like nobody's home, and they realize it's their house.
it's their own house, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Homer's just bad mouthing it the whole time.
It's like, he's just like, hey, you know what's even better? I just trampled on the poor Sep's flower bed. Homer, this is our house. Homer goes to Moe's tavern to like try to get off his frustrations, and he's like, you know, Mo, there's something that I'm reminded of. My mother used to tell me, son, you're a big disappointment. And God bless her soul, she was really onto something. Barney's like, well, what did you expect, Homer? You got crummy little kids that no one can control.
You can't talk about my kids.
You
Or
sure
at least
Homer
two of
that
them.
your mom said
Why?
that to
You got two I never met? Why you? Here's five you haven't met.
He just-
Can then
just-
get into a bar fight?
By the way, they didn't even have 5 fingers back then. This is like the Simpsons when they only
Yeah.
had like 4 fingers.
And that was like that fight between Homer and Barney, and just like Barney just like kicked his ass.
Well, he just like, what was it? Like he just takes his fist and then just bonks him on the head.
Yes.
So while Homer's like laying on the ground, he sees an advertisement for Dr. Monroe's Family Therapy Center.
Again.
And then, like, it shows a family, like, fighting, and they're just saying, shut up to each other. The kid comes in and just like, why don't you both shut up?
Jerry.
Jerry.
So Homer decides to call them. By the way, this is the first instance of Itchy and Scratchy being advertised.
Yeah.
Bye,
Of
bye, bye.
course.
He is ready, so.
So he does. So Homer tells the whole family, he's like, "Listen, we're gonna go to this therapy center. All it's gonna cost is about like $250." So in order to pay for it, Homer decides to spend the entire kid's college fund, like both for all 3 kids, and it only comes out to $88.
It's 60 cents.
He's like, that's it? That's how much we've been saving up for our kids' college? He's like, don't worry. In order to save this family, we're going to have to make the supreme sacrifice. No, Dad, please don't pawn the TV.
Homework. Couldn't we bond my engagement ring instead?
Yeah, that's like, no, we need about $150 here. Yeah, and then
That
like...
TV.
So finally they're like this mad at Homer because like he sold their college fund and the TV. So when they're sitting down with Dr. Monroe, it's like, okay, I want you to talk about your anxieties, the roots of your unhappiness. And so they're supposed to draw out what's causing them to be upset. And then everybody draws Homer. And Homer, by the way, is too busy drawing, and it's like an airplane falling out of the sky that's getting shot down.
Jesus.
I was like, oops, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Well, if you had been paying attention, perhaps you would see that your family sees you as a stern authority figure, an ogre, if you will.
Well, Doctor, that's true. Ogre is such a strong word. Right on, Doc. Another successful diagnosis.
Next, the doctor's like, oh, you know what? It's time for us to hit over each other at the head with paddles, with padded sticks. By the way,
those things out of fucking American Gladiators.
Yes.
Yes.
By the way, this also happened on a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode. If anybody watched that show. But it was like, it was an episode with the Jeffersons in it as guest stars. And it's like Will Smith and the Jefferson guy just going back and forth with the padded things. One of these days we'll do an omnibus on Fresh Prince, and I'll talk about that. But at one point, Bart takes the padding off. He's like, they made us work padding without the padding, Doc. No, that's not true. Ow, see?
Me?
So next thing you know, like, it's like, don't worry, I'm gonna start up the electric generator. And so, but the doctor tries to explain, it's like, here, you're hooked up to the rest of your family. They have the ability to shock them, and they have the ability to shock. Ow! Just testing.
Just testing.
Why you?
Yeah, and then
Not yet.
yeah, and then everybody, and they just start zapping each other constantly.
Which messes up the electrical circuit around Springfield.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, somebody's really gobbling up the juice, sir. And so the doctor has to turn off.
This thing is be as dead as a dodo.
Like the
Quote Mr. Burns.
The doctor has to turn off the thing, and the family's just like, gee, I thought we were making real progress. It's like, no, you're not. You got to get out of here. He's like, wait a minute, Doc. Your TV commercial said family bliss or double our money back. He's like, okay, fine. He's like, fine, get the money. So
He is pissed off.
So yes, the family comes out with $500. And he's like, should we go back to the pawn shop to get our TV back? That piece of junk, forget it. We're going to get a new TV. 21-inch screen. Realistic flesh tones. And a little cart that we can wheel it in and out of the cart on holidays.
Yeah.
Which by the way, they don't get. It's the same old TV anyway.
It's the same crappy TV as always.
Yeah, so that's how the episode ends on that one. Okay, next one is Bart the General.
Oh.
So Lisa makes some chocolate cupcakes for her teacher, but everybody wants to have a bite.
Oh.
Bart even goes so far as to call Lisa a butt kisser to the teacher. And then later on the bus, like, she actually kisses Lisa's ass just to get a cupcake. So one of the gangsters from Paseone steals Lisa's cupcakes. So Bart goes up, like, give her back those cupcakes or I'm gonna kick your ass. And then, not realizing, of course, that the bully is actually one of Nelson's right-hand men. At one point, Bart actually punches Nelson in the nose, and like Nelson's bleeding. And he's like, "You made me bleed my own blood." So at that point, he's like, "I'm gonna get you after school, man." And so Bart even has nightmares about Nelson, being a big giant and like
kicking his ass.
Eating him for lunch. It's like, I can't squeal. I can't go to the principal about this. It would violate the code of the schoolyard. Which, by the way, means you can't squeal in anything. It's like the mafia. You can't talk bad about the family, even though there's like crimes going on. Like the last thing you ever want to be in the mafia is a rat.
Because they'll kill you if you do rat it out to the police.
Actually, there was a mafioso that did. That's what the whole Goodfellas movie was about. He ratted out the entire crime syndicate at that point. And, yeah, the government basically had to protect him from the mafia after that.
Henry Hill.
Yes, Henry Hill. Yeah, so Nelson just punches Bart in the face like a Star Platinum in the backyard. And that after he's done ordering him, and after he's done doing that, Bart is thrown in a trash can, and then they just start rolling him down the street until he gets back home. Bart come back home all bandaged. Then like Marge is concerned. It's like, how did you get those scars? How did you get all that stuff? And he's like, I got into a fight. And Homer's just like, well, hope you won. Meanwhile, like Bart is like in the bathroom, in the bathtub, like just groaning and everything. And he's begging Dad for help. And Homer just gets the blow dryer and just like, here, let me help you dry those tears. Please imagine like getting a blow dryer right on your face. So Homer and Marge try to tell Bart on how he should handle the bully. Marge is like, you really need to sit down and have a talk with him. And Homer's just like, no, I'm gonna demonstrate on how you should fight him with the punching bag. And so, at one point, like Homer just tackles the punching bag like a Quidgy and then just starts biting into it and ripping off the padding on it to get to the cotton balls. Oh, by the way, this episode is also infamous because the Fox network didn't want the show to use the term family jewels.
What?
They thought that.
Oh yeah, family jewels. It's a slang for a man. You know what?
I know what I means.
They thought
the censorship idea is weird.
Yeah, they thought They thought that talking about a man's genitals was a bad word, because Homer was like telling him, like, if you get the chance, get him right in the family jewels.
You gotta remember, these are back in the day where they were like a lot more stricter about what's said on TV.
Right. I don't know you. That's my purse.
There's even a moment where Homer's like, when you get a chance, throw mud right in his eyes. And then you stomp him when he's standing there blinded.
Dang, Homer's going by prison rules.
Actually, no, there's a more accurate way. According to a professional bouncer, that said, like, if you ever in a situation where somebody's stronger than you, all you got to do is fish hook their eye. Because once you pop out the eye out of its socket, they're gonna start going like right for their eye to in pain, and as soon as they do that, they're yours. So Bart tries to hold Mud in the face and just try to fight back against him, but Nelson's star platinum abilities are too strong for Bart, and even Homer even does the force comes in as a Jedi and says, "Remember the family jewels, son." And then when he tries to go for the family jewels, Bart's like, "I don't know what to tell you." And then Homer's Jedi vision is like watching Bart get pummeled. He's like, "I can't watch." So Bart, after having failed getting advice from his father, Lisa's like, "Why don't you go see Grandpa? Grandpa's got some good advice on how to deal with this." First time we meet Grandpa.
Oh God,
He's
Grandpa
like,
Simpson.
He's like, "I'm here to see Grandpa. Half the people here are named Grandpa." "Well, Grandpa Simpson then." And all the grandpas are like,
Be right back.
Grandpa,
Hey, we get to meet Abe Simpson.
Meanwhile, Abe Simpson is typing down words that he wants to see banned on television. One of them is family jewels. The other two are bra and horny.
Oh, come on.
Once Grandpa realizes that he can't help Bart, he decides to take him over to see Herman, the gun shop owner. And so, like,
Chaos.
Herman decides, like, okay, you need to declare war on Nelson. So he writes up, like, he actually does, like, the whole contract and everything. And it's like, I'll just change Otto von Bismarck to read Bart Simpson. So Bart is, like, sending out invitations to everybody saying, join my army because we're going to take down Nelson. And so Bart and the rest of the gang, like, start training up everybody with water balloons to get ready to take on Nelson and his cronies. Which they do. They end up getting to a point where they tie Nelson up. But as they're about to tie him, he's like, the second you untie me, I'm going to beat you to death, man. And it's like a stalemate at that point, because Bart realizes, like, I'm going to have to untie him sooner or later, but if I do, I'm going to get pummeled. So Herman just like, okay, we're going to have to sign a peace treaty between the two of you. And so the peace treaty says that Nelson can't bully Bart anymore at school, although he could still do it in the neighborhood. And it's like, okay, we'll both sign it. And then everybody celebrates over cupcakes, which started the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
And then Bart finally is, like, sitting in a library. It's like, contrary to what you just seen, war is not glamorous or fun. There are no winners, only losers, with the following exceptions. The American Revolution, World War II, and the Star Wars trilogy. And that's how that episode ends. Alright, the next one is called Moaning Lisa. This is the Depression episode, which for a cartoon was, like, very prominent back then. Like, there was barely any, like, cartoons that even talked about depression at all. There's like one point, there's, like, points where Lisa's just watching her family go around, like, just acting like jackasses. Like, Bart, like, there's even one point where, like, Lisa just gives up her only cupcake to Homer and Bart because she realizes, like, it's not going to give her any pleasure. And then, like, she doesn't want to play dodgeball because she says that she's too sad to do it. And so finally, like, they just send her home with, like, a note saying Lisa refuses to play dodgeball because she is sad. Meanwhile, like, Homer and Bart are trying to play, like, one of those, like, Punch-Out games on, like, a fake NES. And Bart just keeps beating Homer all the time. So that's, like, the B story in this. At one point, Lisa just decides to go outside because, in the middle of the night, because she overhears a saxophone in the background. Because also, Homer's, like, basically telling Lisa, like, you can't play the saxophone while you're in the house because it's too loud. And it's like, but the saxophone is the only thing that brings me happiness, Dad. You know, so finally, Lisa goes outside and finds Bleeding Gums Murphy playing the blues out by the bridge. So the two of them spend some time together playing the saxophone. And then, like, Lisa finally, like, sings a blues number about, like, all of her woes and everything. And she's like, I don't feel any better. And Bleeding Gums says, like, well, the blues are not supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you feel worse and then make some money while you're at it. At one point, like, Homer goes to the arcade because he's going to try to get better at the game. So he finds, like, the world champion at the arcade. And he's like, oh, thanks for giving me all these quarters. Now I can beat my 10-year-old son in a video game. At one point, Marge is trying to convince Lisa in the car. It's like, just smile, because smiling is going to make everything better for you. Like, you'll get invited to parties, boys will start liking you, because if you're sad all the time, you're not going to get any of that shit.
Ableist.
And as Lisa's smiling, she's just like, oh, I feel better already. Of course, lying out of her teeth. And of course, everybody's taking advantage of her.
Like pure ableism.
Kind of. But everybody's taking advantage of her kindness. Like, there's even, like, somebody, like like one of the teachers is like bad mouthing her, and Lisa's just like, well, I just have to smile through this, even though I'm getting treated like shit. Like even one of the kids who's like a womanizer goes up to her, and it's like, oh man, I think you're really hot the way you're smiling like that. And she's like, oh, thank you for calling me hot when I'm really not that attracted to you and everything. Like basically doing the whole masking thing, and then Marge sees this finally. It's just like, get in the damn car. And he's like, I am so sorry, Lisa. You know, if you want to be sad, be sad. You know, I won't hold it against you. And she's like, I'll do the smiling for the both of us. And that actually makes Lisa smile. He's like, but I actually feel like smiling this time, Mom.
Aww.
Aww.
Hi.
Meanwhile, like, Homer finally has his JoJo moment where, like, the stand ability's really coming into play. And he's about ready to do the ora to Bart and the final thing, and then Marge just unplugs the TV right as it's about to happen. He's like, my game! I could have beaten the boy! Marge, how could you? I was so close! And it's like, I'm sorry, Homer, but Lisa's smile is more important than that silly game.
Damn!
It's like, you're right, Mom. I would just like to make this occasion to announce my retirement, undefeated in the world of video boxing. Homer's just
Cheeky little
Homer's just crying. He's like, Meanwhile, they all go to Bleeding Gums Murphy's Blues Bar, and Bleeding Gums actually sings Lisa's song for her while she's in the audience. Homer hears what Lisa said about her belonging in a zoo, and he's like, what? And that's how that episode ends. So the next one is actually called The Telltale Head. This is the one where Bart steals Jebediah Springfield's head off the statue.
Oh God.
The guilt.
Well, the episode starts with Homer and Bart about to return the head back to the statue. But of course there's an angry mob going after them. And so Bart's like, "Here, let me tell a 23-minute and 5-second story about how all this happened." And the mob's like, "Okay, we got time. Go ahead, kid." It's the most funniest thing
It's
ever.
like a recap of what happened.
Yeah, it's exactly. The story starts with like Al the family getting ready for Sunday school. Bart doesn't want to go. Homer doesn't want to go because he wants to watch his football game. There's even one point. It's like, why do I have to be the bad person every Sunday? I'm just trying to get some goodness into the family. Everyone's just like, nope, not doing it. There's even one point where Bart tries to sneak into Sunday school with some like a cassette player and everything. He's like, "Were you going to listen to rock music in Sunday school? Maybe." After Marge leaves the headphones in there, like Homer sneaks it into church because he's planning on listening to the football game during church. Bart keeps asking questions to the Sunday school teacher also. Like, there's one point, it's like, ma'am, what happens if, like, you're a really good person, but you get in a really bad accident, your leg has to be amputated? Will the leg be waiting for you in heaven? It's like, for the last time, Bart, yes. He's like, the ventriloquist goes to heaven, but the dummy doesn't. And Bart's like, what about a robot with a human brain? And the teacher's like, I don't know. All these questions? Is a little blind faith too much to ask? So Bart decides to go see Space Mutants 4. and runs into a group of bullies called Jimbo, Kearney, and Dolph. And then starts hanging out with them after they get kicked out of the movie. Like, he finds out, like, they actually steal food from the Quickie Mart, which I think this is also the debut of Apu before they killed him off later on.
Yeah, I think it is.
And then finally they all sit around looking at the clouds, and the kids are like, I wish somebody would actually cut the head off of Jebediah Springfield. And then Bart's like, no, that guy is like a town hero. And then they start making fun. Then they start using homophobic slurs against Bart, saying, oh, he's your boyfriend. And the kids don't think he's cool anymore. So finally, like, he goes to Bart and just says, like, hey, or Bart just goes to Homer and says, hey, Dad, how important is it to be popular? Son, being popular is the most important thing in the world. It's like, okay, Dad, I'll take your advice. And so, in order to get popularity with the guys, he cuts Jebediah's head off with a saw. Meanwhile, the town is all up in arms that someone would debase their statue. And it shows, like, everybody, like, it shows people crying like it's a national tragedy. And then there's like an angry mob forming at the elderly place. Like, I hope we find the person who does this, and I hope they cut his head off. Finally, like, Bart goes to the guys. It's like, hey guys, I'm about to cut. Like, he's about to show them the head, and the guys are like, if we find out whoever do this, we're gonna break every bone in his body. It's like, guys, what about you guys saying like it was cool if that happened? And they're like, well, we were just fooling around. We weren't serious. And all of a sudden, like, Jebediah's spirit starts talking to Bart in his head, like, oh, you try to be popular. Now you're the most hated boy in town. So Bart decides to bury the head in the backyard, but the head is like, come on, you gotta really actually tell people what happened. You know, that's what a true hero would do. Well, I'm not feeling very heroic right now. He's like, oh, asshole. Finally, Bart works up the courage to actually tell his parents what happened. And then he's like, and when they ask him why, it's like, because I wanted some really bad kids to like me. Somehow I got the idea that being popular was the most important thing in the world. And then Homer realizes, oh, I fucked up.
Yeah, nice going, Homer.
And then the episode picks off where it left off with the angry mob chasing him. And even the angry mob's like, okay, we know this part already. And then after Bart tells the story, it's like, well, what do you guys think? And he's like, aw, that's so sweet. Go ahead, put the head back on. I don't feel like killing anymore. Bart and Homer get away scot-free, and he's like, congratulations, son. Just remember, no, most angry mobs are not like this. Alright, okay, the next episode is the Christmas special.
Oh, yes.
The one where they get Santa's little helper.
This one actually has some scenes to it that were in the promo, but not in the actual episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mm-hmm. I think I remember I also had that one on videotape before, too.
So it starts off them going to like the Christmas recital at the elementary school, and they see all of their kids as recitals, and of course Bart singing the Batman Smells Jingle Bells version.
I mean, though from that part, I actually kind of liked Lisa's one as Tawanga, the Santa Claus of the South Seas.
Yeah.
And everybody was so surprised about how well she performed.
Although, I will say, like, having an 8-year-old playing with fire, probably not the best idea.
I think she was dressed inappropriately a little bit too.
Marge is writing the Christmas letter to everybody.
Okay, I think I can remember some of it. Dear friends of the Simpson family, we've had some sadness and some gladness this year. First, the sadness. Our little cat Snowball was run over unexpected and went to kitty heaven. But we bought a new little cat, Snowball too. I guess that life goes on. Speaking of life going on, Grandpa is still with us as feisty as ever. Maggie has started to say her words. Lisa got straight A's. And Bart, well, we love Bart. The magic of the season has touched us all.
Marge,
Homer
where's that
sends
extension card?
Love. Homer
Marge.
sends his love. Happy holidays,
Marge.
The Simpsons.
Marge, where's that extension cord?
Well, for heaven's sakes, Homer, it's in the utility drawer.
And she wrote it all down.
Yes.
Lisa
I
wants a
love how
po-
you and I reconnected.
Lisa? Yeah.
Lisa wants
Yeah,
a pony
that's
for
also the one.
Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like they
Oh,
can't.
Maybe Bart's is a little more realistic.
A tattoo? A what?
Oh,
Yeah, and they're cool and they last the rest of your life. You will not be getting a tattoo for Christmas.
Yeah, if you want one, you'll have to pay for it out of your own allowance. Oh, right!
Oh, Homer!
Oh, this is also the introduction of Patty and Selma.
yep.
It's like, Marge,
I hope
please.
I was doing okay with my I hope I was doing okay with my Marge voice then.
No, you did good.
It was
on that.
good.
Thank you.
It's like, Marge, please. Who is this? May I please speak to Marge? This is her sister, isn't it? Is Marge there? Who shall I say is calling? Marge, please.
No, you missed this.
Oh, this is also the introduction of Flanders.
Oh
That's like,
God, yes.
That's like, hi, diddly do, Homer.
his
Do you
family.
think this looks okay? Flanders has like a better Christmas light showing than the Simpsons do. He's like, oh, there's too bright. Oh, those Flanders, what a big show off. And then they're all going to the mall for Christmas presents, and of course Bart decides to go for the tattoo, and then Marge is like, "Oh no, we're getting rid of that tattoo, but it's gonna cost you your entire Christmas
Money.
money."
Fun.
Which I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, Marge, do you really have to do that though? Like, just let him have the tattoo. I think presents. I think presents are gonna be more important than like trying to get the tattoo off. And then, of course, Mr. Burns doesn't give them their Christmas bonus at the end of the year. So it's like, oh, thank God for the big jar. And, of course, the big jar's not there. So Homer's like, oh, we're ruined. Christmas is canceled. No presents for anyone. And, of course, Homer doesn't bother to tell them about the bonus not being there. So he's just like, I'll do the Christmas shopping this year. And he just goes to, like, one of those thrift stores. Or, like, one of those thrift shops. Or, like, one of those little convenience stores. And he's just going around going, I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. So, like, he gives Marge pantyhose. He gets Bart pads of paper. And then gives Maggie a dog squeaky toy. And, of course, Flanders is getting, like, all these presents for his family, and Homer's just crying. It's like, oh, man, why can't I be like that? Meanwhile, he goes to Moe's bar, and Barney's just like, drinks all around. I got a job working as a Santa down at the mall. And my first thought was, oh, my God, is Billy Bob Thornton going to be there? It's like, you want to see some magic, kid? Here, let's watch you disappear. Your beard's not real. No shit. Oh, see, it was real, but then I got sick, so I had to get this one. How'd you get sick? I loved a woman who wasn't clean. Mrs. Santa? No, it was her sister.
Uh,
So like Homer auditions to be like a mall Santa. And of course, because there's no Christmas tree, because Patty and Selma are there, and it's like, oh yeah, it's really Christmas here. You don't have a tree, do you, Homer? Well, I was just about to go get one. So he finds like all the Christmas tree places don't have trees anymore. So he takes a chainsaw and then just like he just drives away before the guy, because he went onto somebody else's property to steal the tree, and so it's like, why is there a birdhouse in the tree? That's an ornament. That's an ornament. Do I smell gunpowder?
Gunpowder.
So meanwhile, Bart decides to go sit on Homer's lap so he could yank his beard off, not realizing, of course, it's his dad. He's like, what's your name, Bartner? I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you? I'm jolly old Saint Nick. Oh, yeah? We'll just see about that. Homer, I want a word with you in Santa's workshop, little boy.
Come on for me, Alfie.
He tells Bart what he's doing. He's like, I'll say, Dad, you must really love us to sink this low. Hey, kids, Santa's back. Ho, ho, don't!
Hit his head on the frickin' thing.
And then finally he's going to get his paycheck, and it's really just $13 because all the other things, like, he actually had to pay for all the training. And so it's like, oh, we just took that out of your paycheck. He's like, oh, what am I going to do with $13? So Barney's
And
like,
then
oh, let's
Barney
go to the
comes up with
dog
that-
track.
Oh, goddamn.
Come on, there's this kid, there's this dog's got a 10-to-1 shot. Money in the bank. And so, Bart's like, oh, hey, Dad, this will be the miracle that helps save the Simpsons Christmas. If TV has taught me anything, is that miracles always happen to poor kids at Christmas. It happened to Tiny Tim, it happened to Charlie Brown, it happened to the Smurfs, and it's gonna happen to us. Okay, let's go. Who's Tiny Tim?
Come on.
They go to the dog track, and all of a sudden on the PA speaker, they hear the name Santa's Little Helper. And he's like, Bart, did you hear that? What a name. Santa's Little Helper? It's a sign. It's a moment. It's a coincidence,
It's a
Dad.
coincidence, Dad.
So he puts everything on Santa's Little Helper. And then, of course, Santa's Little Helper gets in last place. He's like, I can't believe it. TV has betrayed me. Meanwhile, Barney guts off, like, actually won because he betted on the dog that he said he was going to, and he's got like a hot woman in the back, in the passenger seat. It's like, let's go, Daria. And Kevin just cried tears after seeing that. And then the owner of Santa's Little Helper basically tells him, it's like, get away and don't come back. He just jumps right into Homer's arms. He's like, oh, can we keep him, Dad, please? He's like, but he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's a Simpson. So they bring Santa's Little Helper home, and all the family's just like, oh my God, I love it. This is the best Christmas gift ever as a dog. Very surreal moment. And then they all sing Christmas carols at the end.
Yeah. And then, like, Bart just interjects with, like, idioms.
With all these idioms. It's like, I'm warning you, boy.
and then Homer sings one. Like, so Rudolph, get your nose over here so you can guide my sleigh today.
Exactly. The next episode is like called the Call of the Simpsons, This is basically the Keeping Up with the Joneses episode, because
Oh God.
Flanders gets an RV, and Homer's like, I gotta get a better RV than him. And so what they do is they meet they meet the RV store owner, and who's played by Albert Brooks, by the way, who's well known for voicing the father in Finding Nemo. So he's like, he shows like everybody, he shows the family the most expensive RV there is, and he's like, I can't sell this to you. You have bad credit. So they go for like the worst RV in the lot instead. And he's like, ha ha, check this out, Flanders. I got an RV just like you. And he's like, oh, he's jealous. So they go camping in the woods. But of course, Homer can't find his way around the woods, so he ends up almost taking the RV off a cliff. And so they're stuck in the woods. But Homer's like, I'm an experienced woodsman. And then goes off. He's like, oh, what have I done? I've murdered us all. Homer decides to take Bart off on his own and just leave the girls all by themselves. And I think they get caught in the stream, and they end up like falling to a waterfall, and the waterfall like basically rips off all their clothes. So Homer and Bart are now naked in the jungle, with only like with only moss to keep themselves covered. And they try to get a rabbit to eat to dinner. This is basically turned into Simpsons Survivor. And of course, Homer tries to go into one of the bushes, and all these animals start attacking him. The next day, he tries to get some honey out of a honeybee thing, and like he's getting stung in his beehive. And he's getting stung by the bee, so he tries to go to get some water, but he ends up running into some mud. And then, of course, like there's like a guy just like photographing something, and then Homer goes into the mud, and then the guy's like, "Oh my God, it's Bigfoot!" And then, of course, they start running stories of like, "Oh my God, Bigfoot's in the woods." And then, like Marge and the girls are like there. It's like, oh, "That's my husband!" And they start posting all these stories about like Marge being married to Bigfoot. And everybody doesn't believe her. It's like, that can't be a human. Finally, they find Homer and Bart, and they tranquilize Homer. It's like, we got him, we got Bigfoot. He's like, avenge me, son, avenge my death. And he just falls asleep.
Huh.
And then they start forming, and then like scientists start performing like lab experiments on him, and all these scientists on television are just like, is he really Bigfoot? Is he really human, or is he really Bigfoot? And like they're talking about, it's like, I mean, he can't be human. He looks like an ape. And of course, Homer's pissed off about it. Well, that's the way that episode ends. All right, the next one is called Homer's Night Out. This is where he's like dancing with a stripper.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, because this one is like Bart gets a spy camera from like one of those like I forgot what they call it. It's like one of those magazines where they just like sell like these weird things. But anyway, so he decides to get a spy camera, and every day he's been waiting outside the door for the mail lady to give him the spy camera, to the point where they're now yelling at each other, "Where's my spy camera?" It's like every day for the past 3 months this is happening. Bart's been taking
3
pictures.
months.
Yeah, because he had to wait 3 months to get the camera.
It takes like a lot less time now to fucking get a package. Where do you order from? China?
No, or Amazon, you can get it in less than a day.
Yeah.
But so while he's taking pictures with the camera, like Homer's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to a bachelor party for one of the guys at work." It's like, "Oh, this isn't like a stag party, is it?" No, it's purely on the up and up, Marge. No strippers whatsoever. Meanwhile, the rest of the family is going to the same restaurant that Homer's having the stag party. So Bart catches Homer dancing with the entertainment for the night, and then takes a picture with his spy camera of like Homer and the stripper dancing on the table. And then Bart starts making copies of the picture all over school, and then it starts getting all over town. So the pastor knows about it, Mr. Burns knows about it, Marge finds out about it. She goes, "What is the meaning of this?"
I'm looking at the picture right now, and it's really tame. There's space between them, like, the whole save room for Jesus thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And like he's just dancing. Like he's just her getting mad like that. It's kind of weird.
So Marge basically throws Homer out of the house. So Homer has to stay with Barney at his apartment. There's even one point where Homer tries to get back into the house, and he's like, "Hey, Marge, are you still mad?" "Yeah, you are still mad, aren't you? Look, I could read your thoughts like a book. I'll just have some milk from the fridge. Look, I'm not drinking out of the carton." Like, "Oh, come on, Marge. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He's like, "Homer, you don't even know why you're apologizing." He's like, "Yes, I do, because I'm hungry and my clothes are smelly and I'm tired." And so Marge convinces Homer, it's like, you need to, you taught Bart a very bad lesson. He's going to start seeing women as sexual objects now because of you. So you better go find the stripper.
Fuck off with that. Sorry, just had to.
So Marge convinces Homer that go find that stripper that you danced with, and then I want you to tell Bart, and I want you to demonstrate to Bart. I want you to have the stripper tell Bart that she's a real human with real feelings, and all that. And then so they try to go to all the strip clubs in the area. They can't find the stripper. Meanwhile, Homer's like, every time like they go to a strip club, Homer's like, "Bart, look at the floor." Of course, not realizing the joke is like, "Oh, they're taking him to all these strip clubs." Like, yeah, that's gonna make it easier on him. Finally, they go to the Sapphire Lounge, which is where the stripper is at. And by the way, she's about ready to perform up on stage, because she's like in a, I can't remember what it was. I think it's like she was pretending to be a bird, and she was gonna get hung up on a bird cage up in the air or something like that. But anyway, they go through the conversation really quick, not realizing Homer's stuck in the cage with her. So he's now on stage with everybody. He's like, "Ah, get me down from here." And then, of course, like, the guy that hosts the entire thing is like, "Oh, hey, no, this is a good thing. Like, what's your name, sir?" Homer. "Oh, what are you here for?" "Well, I just wanted to try to teach my son about strippers and how they're women with real feelings and everything." It's like, "Oh, man, that's such great. Like, here, why don't you become part of the show?" And, of course, Marge just happens to be there watching the entire show. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you here?
Why?
I know. Like, that was the question. Like, why are you here? But then
Like,
again,
this better not be one of those, sin for thee but not for me kind of things.
I think it's also because Homer told her where they were going to be, and she just decided to show up just to make sure. Like, you better have done this. And of course, Homer sees Marge in the audience, like, "Oh no, I gotta set an example for my son." So he goes into this big ordeal about how, like, It goes into this whole thing. It's like, oh, these strippers, they can be our mothers. They could be our aunts, our nieces and nephews. Or not really our nephews. But I would rather feel the sweet breath of my beautiful wife as she sleeps than pour $5 into some random girl's G-string.
Okay.
Sip.
For his own wife?
Yeah.
Okay. And then everybody in the crowd starts realizing, oh, man, I feel so bad being at this strip joint. And even the strippers are crying, like, oh, that guy completely understands us. Even the club owner's like, wow, I haven't talked to my mom in a few months. I better give her a call. And then Marge and Homer start making out on stage.
Uh-oh.
And he's like, okay, only perverts want to see my folks kiss, okay? Get out of here, Bart says. And that's how that episode ends. This is actually considered to be like one of the worst episodes ever made by the from the Simpsons
I can see why.
Why?
Like, even the creators were not happy with it. Even some of the critics have said, like, wow, Marge is like really Karen-like in this episode.
I was rushed. She hasn't let Homer.
Like, she went nuclear for something that just needed a just proper communication.
Yeah, it's like Homer even tried to explain, like, there's nothing even going on with me and Princess Cashmere. She's like, Princess who? Like, apparently just even knowing her name was bad enough in her eyes.
Her stage name, her real name is Shauna.
Yes. Okay, so the next episode is called Life on the Fast Lane. The episode starts off with Bart and Lisa making breakfast for Marge because it's her birthday. But of course, because they're gonna serve her breakfast in bed. Which, by the way, don't do that to the Tourette's guy. He won't like it.
Total.
It's like, Dad, I made you some shit. Get the fuck out of here. Homer actually thinks it's his birthday, but doesn't even realize that it's Marge's. He's like, you don't even know your own wife's birthday? It's like, well, yeah, of course I know it. Oh, you silly thing. You actually thought I forgot your birthday? And they're like, oh, yeah, what'd you get her?
What you get her?
Yeah, what'd you get her, Dad?
Yeah, what'd you get?
It's like, well, a very thoughtful gift, but it's a surprise. It's such a beautiful morning. I think I'm going to take a stroll around the block. And then just starts running. Yeah, he just runs to the car. He's like, I think he forgot, Mom.
Forgot, Mom. Mm-hmm.
By the way, Bart's birthday present to Marge was perfume, all the way from Gay Perry, $4 plus tax.
Lisa made her a homemade card
with macaroni and glue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
very detailed too.
So Homer goes to the mall to buy something, and he ends up buying a bowling ball with his name on it. And so Marge announces that they're going to be having dinner at the Singing Sirloin, where all the waiters sing like happy occasions or whatever.
Yep. Or even sad ones.
Yeah, like they do, like they demonstrate like newlyweds, woman getting pregnant for the first time, and then a funeral. So it's like, oh, they do everything here. Of course, Patty and Selma are there. It's just like 34 years old, time enough to start all over with the new man, someone who eats with his mouth shut. It's finally time for.
Look at him.
It's finally time for Homer to give Marge her present. The present breaks, and the bowling ball just like drops right onto the birthday cake. It's like, well, Marge, what do you think? Well, it's hard for me to judge since I never bowled in my life. It's like, well, if you
Dum
don't
dum.
want it, I know someone who does.
Ugh.
So, out of spite, Marge decides to take the bowling ball and go bowling herself. She's like, thank you for the present, Homer. You're welcome. And since she has no idea how to bowl, she doesn't even realize that you have to have bowling shoes. And she's just like, hey, excuse me, where do I throw this thing? So she finally, like, gets a bowling lane and the shoes, and all of a sudden, like, she bowls, but she ends up, like, throwing the bowling ball. Like, she doesn't even roll the ball in the lane. She just throws it, and the ball just, like, bounces like a basketball. And then just hits only one pin, and it's the same pin every time. And then eventually,
And then she gets help from this guy.
Well,
For a moment, I thought, like, she threw it backwards, like what happens in Wii Sports sometimes.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, like, you throw it backwards, and then all the Miis jump up and spin in a circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Freak out.
Yeah, so she ends up hitting, like, one of the person next to her's bowling pin. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And, of course, it turns out that the guy is basically Barack Van Zeeks if he was French.
Hello, ladies.
He's like, oh, this
Oh,
nice...
God damn it.
By the way, this guy named Jacques is also voiced by Albert Brooks, who, by the way, it is well known that Albert Brooks in this episode ad-libbed all of his lines.
Wow.
So he spent like 3 hours in the acting booth, and like he just went off for like 3 hours, and he just made all the actors break character. Like even some of the producers and the directors were just laughing hysterically. They couldn't even keep up with him. Like this is also lost media, by the way. If anyone could find it on YouTube, just look up Albert Brooks Jacques Simpsons, and you could probably find it somewhere. But it's very hard to come by. It was featured on the season 1 DVD. Like he's like, "Have you ever been to Hershey, Pennsylvania, Marge? I went to this place. It's full of candy, but I ended up stealing a whole bunch of them, and then I end up killing a bride's horse. I'm on the run, Marge." But no, like so he's like, oh, it's nice to meet you, Homer. He's like, no, Homer's my ball's name. I'm Marge. He starts sensually touching her fingers. He's like, oh, your fingers are so slender, so feminine. They are much too delicate for the ball you're using. You need something much more lighter. Here, use my ball. And it's like, you never bowled before, Marge? No? Then I will teach you. Here, pick up Homer. Pick up the ball. Now throw. But throw, damn you. She throws the ball. She instantly gets a strike. He's like, ooh, you are a very good teacher.
Jesus Christ. And little does she know that she might not have been knowing that this guy, that she unintentionally probably cheated on Homer.
Emotional fair.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yes.
he charges $24 for lessons. He's like, it's a $40 value. Okay, when do we start? We have already begun. Like there is even one point where they're just like on the bowling lane itself, just feeling the smoothness of the lane. He's like, quite smooth, isn't it, Marge? Yes, it's smooth. Yes, very smooth. Yes, smooth. Yes. You can eat off of it. Are you hungry? Yes. 4 onion rings. By the way, that 4 onion rings line, Albert Brooks ad-libbed it to the point where it actually broke his French accent because it was so ad-libbed that everyone in the, everybody cracked up after that, according to like people that were there. Like they were not expecting it. By the way, all the other families just eating pizza, and they just have like a list of like everything that Marge just said, like, oh, here's all the to-do list for everything. Marge is like, oh, it was a lot of fun, Homer. There was like a lot of fun doing bowling. I'm going back there tomorrow. He's like, wait, you're going back? It's like, yeah, if you don't mind taking care of the kids again. No, I don't mind. Meanwhile, Marge is instantly getting better at bowling. And there's also moments where Jacques is just like feeling Marge's hands when she's like trying to pick up. When you play bowling, you know that fan that comes like that blows air like next to the bowling balls? Like, yeah, there's a point where she's like grabbing where she's trying to grab some air from the bowling ball, and like Jacques is just like feeling her hands as she's doing it. And Marge is like, oh, look into this sexy French man's eyes. And Jacques decides to drop tries to drop Marge off in her at her house. By the way, the moon is full and it looks like a bowling ball because it's got like 3 holes in the moon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, Marge, do you know how beautiful you look in the moonlight? He's like, Jacques, I'm a married woman. It's like, I know. My mind says stop, but my heart and my hips cry proceed. So they decide to make a brunch date, I should say, for the next day. He's like, Marge, there are 10 pins in my heart. You knocked over 8. Won't you please pick up that spare?
I
Jesus
have the transcript
Christ,
right now.
Where are you getting at this?
And it's like, damn, Albert, how did you come up with that all on your own? Jesus. How many bowling alleys have you been to in your life? Did you use that on people when you were younger? So they go to brunch. And then eventually, Jacques says, Marge, I want you to meet with me again, away from prying eyes, at my apartment, the Fiesta Terrace. Marge blacks out and passes out, and then has this weird dream sequence where her hair is pink and it's all in black and white. And she's like,
did you mention Helen Lovejoy?
Oh yeah, that's right. She shows up in this. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that you were having brunch with somebody that's not your husband. He's like, oh, don't worry, I'm giving her a bowling lesson. That's all. But during that dream sequence, it's like, ooh, I've been waiting for you. Come in, my captivating one. And then they start dancing all over. They start dancing all over Jacques' place, like ballroom dancing. There's one moment where he's like, ooh, you certainly have a lot of bowling trophies. Marge, those are not for bowling. They're for lovemaking. There's an improv thing. There's an actual thing where they had to cut out of the during the improv sessions. Like Albert just said, why'd they have bowling pins on them? I don't know. Actually, Marge, that's not a bowling pin. Did you know that in 5 states it's illegal to bronze that? And everybody just was cracking up in the booth. Anyway, Marge wakes up from her wet dream and is like, "Is Thursday okay?" So the next day, like, Marge is making everybody lunch for school, and then Homer comes in. It's like, Marge, I don't know how you do it. Like, everybody that makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like, the peanut butter, the jelly just starts falling off from the sides, but yours just stays perfect the way they always do. I don't know how you do it. I guess you just have a gift. Goodbye, my wife. It's like one of those goodbyes, like, oh, you're gonna go get a bottle of milk for the rest of your life, aren't you?
Oh gosh, sorry, I just noticed that the thing I'm looking for with the transcript, it's supposed to say an outside shot, but they changed it to shit. They put shot as shit, and it's censored, and it's bothering me.
Exterior, outside shit.
And I'm gonna just
So Marge just starts like traveling down all this road, and she starts seeing like all these marriage like stores and everything, and then finally there's a fork in the road, and it's like, oh, this one goes to the nuclear power plant where Homer works. This one goes to Jacques' apartment. Ooh, which one should I choose? And then eventually she chooses Homer at the very end. Like she ends up surprising him at work, and then
Yep.
And so Marge carries her like to the car. She's like, "Tell the boss I'm going
Marge
to the
carries
bank."
her?
Sorry, Homer carries her. No, that would have been something if Marge carried Homer, but no, that wasn't the case. It was the other way around.
Well,
Marge cloned herself and is now carrying herself to the car.
And fun fact, I think the music that played it is saying like I heard like some like from like an officer and a gentleman or something.
Yes, it's basically a parody of that. The parody of that final scene at the end of the movie.
Oh gosh. Tell him I'm going to the backseat of my car with the woman I love. Dot, dot,
And
dot, and I won't
be back
for 10 minutes.
It would have been funny. It would have been funny
And
if
the
he
guys were cheering.
It would have been funny if he said 2 minutes instead of 10 minutes.
Hey, it takes time to get to
Oh,
the
God.
car.
True, I guess.
What, cat? You know you want my attention, buddy, but damn.
All right. Next episode. This one is called Krusty Gets Busted.
Oh yeah, this is like the first time we meet like Sideshow Bob.
Well, this is technically the second episode that Sideshow Bob makes an appearance, because he makes an appearance in the Telltale Head one, but he didn't have any speaking lines, because this time, like, Sideshow Bob is played by Kelsey Grammer, who is best known for being in Cheers and Frasier, and was like very known on Broadway and everything. So they brought him on to do the show, and so what happened was in this one, like all the kids in the family like watching Krusty, and Sideshow Bob is always the butt of all the jokes. But one night, like, Homer's going to the Quickie Mart to pick up some food, and he sees Krusty like with a gun and trying to steal money from Pooh. And so Homer describes it like, "Oh, that was Krusty the Clown that stole Krusty the Clown that stole all that stuff." It's like, "Send in the clowns."
He must have had a really crusty crown then.
But eventually they arrest Krusty, and then Homer comes home to try to take Bart away from the TV so that he doesn't see what happens. And then of course, like, Bart's devastated because Krusty's his childhood hero. So eventually the town decides to take all of Krusty's like merchandise and to just burn it, and just burn everything.
Just like a book burning with Greg Locke.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, while Krusty's trial is going on, because one of the things that happened during the robbery was that Homer stepped on Krusty's shoes. And, like, one of the things that people... yes, he was also Stinky Pink in Toy Story 2. I forgot about that. But people noticed, like, wow, Krusty's feet are very small. How did his feet get hurt during the robbery? So while the trial goes on, they find out that Krusty is illiterate. He can't read anything. And then eventually he gets a guilty verdict. Sideshow Bob ends up becoming the host of the new show. And then Bart, like, tries to convince Lisa, like, wait a minute, I think Krusty's innocent. He pulls a whole Phoenix Wright and just decides, like, we need to prove that he's innocent. So Lisa ends up figuring out, it's like, wait a minute, Krusty can't have anything microwavable because he had a pacemaker because of his heart attack. And so it's like, okay, that's weird. And then it's like, wait a minute, why would he buy a magazine if he can't read? So they decide to go to the studio to try to ask Sideshow Bob some questions. And so like Sideshow Bob actually gets Bart to sit down with him on stage. And then Sideshow Bob slips up because like he says something like
Big
that.
shoes to fill.
Yes, he says the big contradiction, and then Bart goes into objection mode. And when I say objection mode, he goes like full like Phoenix Wright anime, where like every time he says objection, a hurricane comes in.
So like the airbending gag.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, I think he's like, attention, fellow children. Krusty wasn't the one who robbed us. Sideshow Bob did it. I got proof. And then he
Yeah.
just like smacks them, slams the hammer. See that? Krusty has like, Sideshow Bob is the one with the big ugly feet or something like that. I can't remember the rest of the script.
Bart hits Sideshow Bob's feet with a mallet, and like Sideshow Bob ends up saying the exact same thing he said at the robbery scene. And then Bart reveals, like, yeah, he's got big feet. Like, Sideshow Bob framed Krusty, and the Cub's like, yes, I admit it. I hated Krusty. I played the buffoon, and I would have gotten away with it, too, if it weren't for these meddling kids.
Take him away, boys.
And then Krusty thanks Bart for saving his life, pretty much. And then Bart's like, well, I'm truly his #1 fan. I've saved him. And that's how the episode ends.
Yep.
And then the very last episode called The Crepes of Wrath. Not
Oh,
grapes.
gosh.
Crepes. This is where Skinner's mother makes her debut, by the way.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so Bart decides to... well, first of all, Homer breaks his back because he slips on one of Bart's toys, falls down the stairs, and is stuck by the front door. And the only thing he hears is the Krusty doll saying, "I like to play with you," and it's just like looped over and over again until like Marge and Lisa get home. Meanwhile, Bart's upstairs the entire time, not knowing that his father is like injured on the ground. So, like, Marge, after finding out that Homer slipped on one of Bart's toys, like, she tells Bart, "Clean up your goddamn mess." So he does, and he finds a cherry bomb in the mess.
I remember this.
So Bart decides, you know what? Let's play a prank at the school. He's gonna throw the cherry bomb down one of the toilets. Meanwhile, Agnes Skinner is on the toilet as this is happening. And she flies up in the air because the water because once the bomb goes off, like all the toilets start overflowing like a fountain. And Agnes just goes up
like
in
a
the
geyser?
air. Like a guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Spanky!"
Freaking Yellowstone in there.
Spanky! Because that's her nickname for Skinner. She's like, "Oh no, mother." So Skinner decides to take Bart home to like, okay, we need to kick Bart out of the country. He's a menace to American society. So they say, like, why don't we do this foreign exchange program? We'll send Bart over to France where he'll live off the land trying to make wine for all the French folk. Meanwhile, you, family, will get a little Albanian boy to be your son. So all the family agrees, and it's like, okay, sure. Meanwhile, Bart gets there and realizes that the French guys that are like running the wine farm, they treat him like a slave. They barely get him any food or water. So he's basically living like on the verge of death. Meanwhile, the Albanian by Adil, he's like the perfect little child. Little do they know he's actually an Albanian spy. And he's trying to steal secrets from the nuclear power plant. He's like, "Hey Homer, can you show me all the nuclear power plant secrets?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, why not? You're a 10-year-old kid. I won't question you." Meanwhile, the U.S. government finds out that Adil is living in like Homer's like house, and so they just they take Aldi and they put him under arrest for being a spy. Meanwhile, in France, like Bart is trying to find antifreeze because it turns out these two French guys are trying to put antifreeze in the wine, which was very common in Europe back in the day, like to try to get some chemicals off to make some extra money. So, like, he runs into a policeman on the street, but all of a sudden he knows French just for being there for 2 months, and so he just tells the police officer everything in French, and he's like, "Okay, we'll arrest the guys," and they do, and Bart's like, "Yeah, I caught the guys that tried to do this shit to me." So, a deal goes away.
Hold
back
on, what
to
year was
Albania.
this supposed to be taking place?
1990.
All right, because from what I remember, there was a real life incident that was in like I think the mid 80s but it was Austrian wine that was poisoned with that stuff.
Yes.
With the antifreeze?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was based off of. So, so Bart gets to
Funny
go
enough,
back to
that was
America.
also on my VHS.
Bart gets to go back home and gives all the family French gifts, and they just have a good old French celebration at the end of the episode. And that's the end of the first season, really, pretty much. And now I have to watch this improvisation thing from Albert Brooks that Sylph found. It's been a long time since I've seen that, by the way. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire first season. And don't worry, the episodes get a lot better. Because this was just like, oh, we're just dipping our toes in here. We're going to try to figure out how to do all this stuff. Like this whole animation thing. Because they didn't really know how to back then.
I think that a lot of the VHSs for The Simpsons back then were usually the ones from the first season.
Yeah, because they didn't really do that
'Cause
much.
I remember-
mean, they waited 10 years before they finally planned to put everything on DVD.
Yeah, because I remember I had the VHSs with like the one the one with the whole therapy one with Marge and the bowling thing, the Crepes of Wrath, Krusty Gets Busted ones on VHS. Because those are the ones that I remember as a child.
Yeah. Alright, so next time around we'll do season 2, which has a lot more episodes, but a lot of them are very memorable.
I see some grays. You got some white in your fur, bud.
All right.
There's all the little cats there. Alright, so, yeah. We'll do season 2 next time around, folks. So, if you like the Omnibus, the Simpsons Omnibus, and if you want to hear more of it, be sure to not only like this video, but subscribe so that you can see more stuff. And don't forget, on Wednesdays, we do our Ace Attorney series. We just got done with the first episode of that one last Wednesday, and now we're going to be heading into a trial with a lot of bizarreness to it. So look out for that on Wednesdays. You should get a notification if you actually hit the bell and you make sure that those notifications hit. Although YouTube's got a very weird system where sometimes that doesn't work. So just be mindful when the streams are getting put up, because we do post those in advance. So until then, hopefully have a good weekend, and we'll catch you all next on Wednesday. So bye, everybody.